Let's complete the sentence. Josh is a.
Josh is a feeling
Okay.
of doing well in life. It's
Okay.
this belief that you have that if I have Josh, I can do anything.
As a child in school,
Yeah.
were you one of those rebel kids, compliant kids,
Compliant, fully compliant.
fully compliant?
Yeah. I was a teacher's pet.
You.
Yeah.
Good morning, Supriya. Welcome to Pidge's Disruptor Den. I'm Ratnesh. I'm the founder of Pidge. Pidge is a unified logistics platform company. And Supriya here with me is the co-founder and CEO of Josh. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to finally meet you and have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I realized we are neighbors.
Yeah, actually,
We
the
could
biggest
have-
discovery of this. Yeah.
Exactly. So we've all know the background. We've all kind of like talked about, we've heard you and how Josh started. Very inspiring, by the way. And congratulations. But I'm going to twist this around and say, where do you see Josh? What's kind of like the end? What will you like to see Josh be?
Yeah.
And what does that look like for you?
So, it might sound a little naive, but even when we started Josh, the vision really was that if somebody who belongs to a lower income household goes to his or her father and asks that, Dad, I want to do well in life. What do I need? All that the father should say is that all you need is Josh
Right.
in your heart and in your mobile phone.
Right.
And that will set you up for success. So when we look at us as an organization or a brand, we want to play that role in the life of someone who turns 13 years old or 14 years old, becomes career conscious, decides, that they want to actually do something with their life until the time that they settle in their first job, which is say at the age of 27 or 28, we want to be a part of that journey in entirety. So whether it's, in areas like higher ed, in areas which help in upskilling, or even something like English, which we are already doing, that's the space that we want to occupy.
Sure. So one of the things that you're always, kind of like asked
Yeah.
and told in the startup is focus.
Yeah.
Josh is anything but focus.
Yeah.
You guys are doing so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of like wanted to ask you, like, are you an education platform, or is it a skilling platform? Is it a language platform?
Yeah.
Is it a counseling platform?
Yeah.
Who are you?
If you are not fitting into a particular box or a bucket, then you're deemed ill-focused, or people who are all over the place, or people who have no direction.
Right.
But what we are trying to emulate is actually the role of an elder brother. And that's why we can't have focus on one particular thing. We need to do multiple things at the same time, right? If you look back at your journey when you were growing up and you had an elder brother or someone that you looked up to for advice or help, they sort of taught you the basic values that you needed when you were growing up.
Right.
And we've done that sequentially, just like how sort of you start at the age of 12 or 13 when the role model that you have or the elder brother that you have, they start getting you exposed to different things. They tell you that, okay, you should probably go to another city, see how the world works there. That sort of Josh talks for us, where speakers come and share their stories and you are getting an insight into the world beyond where you live. What's happening in the country today, what careers are working, what careers are not, how you can get rid of your background and where you come from and actually get inspired to do something. And then sequentially along the way, helping you with different tools and products that can actually set you up for success.
Sure. So let's dive deeper into
Yeah.
it. The whole notion about being a generalist versus being focused.
Yeah.
Now, take medicine. Now, when I was growing up, there was one doctor.
Yeah.
Whether you had cold or you had needed stitches or you need a bandage or you had a stomach ache, or even if you had kind of like something happening anywhere else in your body, you just go to one
Yeah.
doctor, and that's all that was available. Today, you have a right ear specialist and a left ear
Yeah.
specialist. And it's an age of specialization because that's really where things are. So where do you think, I understand this whole Bade Bhaiya concept, but where do you really think you compete with platforms
Yeah.
or services that are very highly focused on those individual components. And kind of like, how do you really look at, I think there's a two-part question, not so much from a Josh point of view, but
Yeah.
more from just a general, like
Yeah.
generalist versus focus. And then second, how does that kind of like translate for you and Josh?
Yeah. So I think, I think at every different stage of running an organization, and you know this journey better than anyone else. So we didn't set out to be specialists. We wanted to sort of be generalists and recommend other services and other companies, other institutes who were doing really well, who had, say high selection rates, who were able to get people jobs, and then become that platform that recommends them. But along the way, when we started looking at different markets, we realized that there is a space for building in certain areas because nothing exists. For example, we started speaking English, like spoken English teaching, in about 2019. And we set out with the objective that let's find the best solution. And maybe the problem is that our users don't have access to that solution today. So let's figure out how we can get that solution to them. And if there is some revenue model to be made there, we'll make that. We started recommending some of the courses that existed in the market, and the completion rates were below 2%, below 3%. And for an organization that values impact more than anything else, looking at that 3% number was just extremely dissatisfying. The end game was not just make someone buy something. The end game was to actually teach.
Sure.
And if only 2% of people are completing that in a population like India, how does that even make sense fundamentally? So we then set out to build our own product, which is our spoken English app. And now it's the top rated app in the country. So there are areas where there are gaps, and they're not very lucrative that people are actually going to come and do something. We have that advantage because we have massive distribution, so we can sell a 500 rupee course, but I don't think any other company in the country can afford to sell a 500 rupee course today and make a business out of it.
Sure.
But for other areas, the objective is that an elder brother doesn't really teach you. He's not giving you tuitions at the end of the day because he may have done commerce, you're doing science. But he will recommend that, okay, there is this tuition teacher who's maybe do gali chhod ke, and they are the right person for you to study with.
Sure.
And that's what we'll eventually sort of transform into.
Interesting. So let's talk about this English app.
Yeah.
Now, and this is again what I'm trying to understand. You developed your own app.
Yeah.
You could have simply directed them to several, plenty language speaking apps, including Google has its own.
Yeah.
Why did you not direct it to it rather than build it yourself? And again, as you move forward, are you looking at, kind of like to build your own infrastructure, or just direct it to that do gali chhod ke tutor?
So, like I mentioned, in English, there were a lot of other apps, but the completion rates were really poor. So I think that was one of the reasons that we decided to build on our own. The second was the pricing wasn't effective for our user. We are talking about people who come from tier 3, tier 4 India. Household income with 2 or more earning members is 40,000 rupees. The largest transaction that they've made in their life besides, their daughter's or their sister's wedding is actually a cycle or spectacles. And that also with a lot of saving. So for them now to spend something like 10,000, 15,000 or even 6,000 at a local institute to learn English is just not possible. So we had to create something that could be, consumed by a lot of people at a price of a recharge, which is what we say. And that's why we had to end up making it on our own. The third thing was that a lot of these apps are not tailor-made to Indian sensitivities and are not sort of relatable to them. So we had to add that language nuance where we teach from Hindi to English, we teach from Marathi to English, Bengali to English, Malayalam to English. And one of the things that's actually a big problem in the English market really is that everyone wants to teach you vocabulary and grammar first. And the basic principle of language learning, especially for spoken fluency, is that you have to speak.
Yeah.
So the premise of our app and why it sort of does well is that it actually connects you to other people and you speak every single day for a period of 40 to 45 minutes. That's the average time that someone spends speaking. And over a period of 90 days, you see that level of fluency jumping by 2.
Yeah.
And that's sort of why we decided to build. And the second part to your question, which was that in the future, what will we do? If there is something which is a pain point and there is, say, no affordable solution available, we will have to jump in and build. But if there is an affordable solution available, which is credible, which we can verify and say this is great for our users, then we will recommend that.
Got it. So if you were to just kind of like describe in a few words,
Yeah.
Let's complete the sentence. Josh is a.
Josh is a feeling
Okay.
of doing well in life. It's
Okay.
this belief that you have that if I have Josh, I can do anything.
Let's kind of like move on to something lighter.
Yeah.
What's your inspiration? Where does your Josh come from? Day in, day out.
So,
After your board meeting and going
Yeah.
back into another one and doing things, where's your Josh coming from?
I think it comes from the users who watch our content genuinely. And I think, like we were talking about this earlier, how we've had like this mixed feeling since the last 1 year on who are we, what are we trying to do, which bucket are we trying to fit in. And I regret not having meta users in that 1 year, because I felt like if I would have done that, we would have taken better decisions and not wasted so much time.
Sure.
But the Josh comes from that. Like for our English learning product, if you meet someone and you see how their life has transformed, and not just theirs, they are the only person in an entire village who now speaks English. And he's become a role model for everyone else, for
Wow.
every kid to now learn English.
Wow.
Getting a 25,000 rupee job, being able to set your family up for success, getting you out of that rut of being poor. And now that person is a role model for that entire village. We know that there will be success in that village going forward, right? And that's something that's extremely inspiring and motivating, because the reason why we started was to be, like it is a mission, right? The reason we started was for impact. In fact, we set us up as a trust, not for profit back then in 2014. And when we were sort of, going out to the market, trying to, monetize, trying to get advertisers in, we realized that running a not-for-profit is very hard, and you have to have a lot of sort of like, there's a lot of regulatory work around it to be able to then take in donations or money. So we felt that, okay, let's just set it up as a private limited company. And that's why we moved to a for-profit company. And then we started, figuring out business models that could actually make this sustainable and scale in some way or the other. But the heart of what we did or why we started was always impact. So the reason why we continue to grow is impact. It's very tough to run a business like English in India. Like you're charging 500 rupees, everyone else is charging 75,000 rupees for, other online education products, putting people into debt, but making big successful businesses. But that's not where our ethics meet. So, yeah, it's a constant challenge, but impact is at the core of it.
No, for sure. For sure. So your Josh comes from when you see that impact.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So just moving on from, your inspiration and your Josh, who's your role model?
So, I would have to say Indra Nooyi.
Okay.
Because, my first sort of exposure to a female CEO or someone who could be at the, the highest helm of a corporate ladder was Indra. And I just loved how she was just herself. Like, she was not trying to be anyone else. And I think that became sort of my goal when I was young, because I was a part of, like no matter what you say, if you are from a Punjabi household and from, like a family in Delhi, you don't get to see these role models around you who are women. It's mostly small business, male run. And that's sort of not what's expected out of you, right? What's expected is that, okay, fine, you will make a professional career, but then at 25, 26, you'll think of having a family, you'll settle down, and maybe you'll go back to work. But it's not your main thing. You'll go back to work. It's your side thing. Your family becomes your main thing. But when I came across Indra and I started listening to her content, I started watching her interviews, I saw that she molded her life in a way where everyone else was, working for her success.
Sure.
And her career was her priority, and she did everything else along with it and did it well and was able to balance it out.
Right.
But she never sacrificed anything for her career. So she became my role model and continues to be so even today.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, she's very, very inspiring. And one of the first female leaders to kind of like make it big
Yeah.
in corporate America. So
Yeah.
yeah, very inspiring. Let's talk about Supriya.
Yeah.
Supriya is
I
What's
love how
the
your
word?
descriptors are coming in one. I think the best word would be Supriya is relentless.
relentless.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking for a little bit more fun.
Okay.
So as a child in school,
Yeah.
were you one of those rebel kids, compliant kids,
Compliant, fully compliant.
fully compliant?
Yeah.
And
I was a teacher's pet.
you
Yeah.
and how has that shaped to what you want to do now? Because everything that you're describing is literally anything but trying to be
Yeah.
compliant.
Yeah.
So, was that compliance early on in your life something that you're trying to wash away?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to fight it. I feel like my last decade has been about fighting that earlier young Supriya.
Yes.
Because I was, I had only one goal in life, which was to get into a good college.
Right.
And from the time that I was 10 or 11 or 12, when I had heard stories of, like my father going to SRCC and studying there, that became my single goal without any sort of purpose on like why, what do you want from that college, what's going
Right.
to happen after that college, what's going to happen before that college.
Right.
It only became about what are the marks needed to get into that college. And so if you have that single goal, you can't not be a teacher's pet. Everything was about that, that grand looking resume or the marks that you're going to get in your board exams.
Right.
And that's how I was. Like, I remember, and my mom was talking about this a few days ago, that she didn't even see me during my exams because I was that kid who ended up locking her room and wouldn't come out for 3 days because I was
Wow.
just studying.
Wow.
And I had no sort of like social inclination or orientation. I wasn't fond of going out and meeting people, talking to them. It was only about that one particular thing. But I feel like even today, while I may be, sort of going against who I was, but I still feel like I'm obsessed about one thing. And then if that gets done, then there is a sense of accomplishment attached to it, which is what my driver is. But I have that ability to just go really deep into one thing and do it really well.
Right.
And that came from being always obsessed with one thing.
Yeah. So I think this is very interesting because your story resonates with a lot of people in our country where you are expected to be compliant. I mean, you look at our education system, and it hasn't really changed dramatically. It's for a long time. Yes, there is the new education policy, and a lot is being done now. We will see the impact of that maybe in the next decade or two. But the reality is that we're forced upon choices without having full experience about those choices. I mean, when you're in grade 10, you're like 16 years old, and you're expected to choose between science, humanities, and commerce.
Yeah.
And how? You don't know anything about
Yeah.
them, right? You never taught commerce up until grade 10,
Yeah.
or economics, or business management, accounting, whatever. You're forced to make those choices. Then you go to college, and then you're forced to make another choice. That it's that choice that you're forced to make. Now, coming back to Josh,
Yeah.
coming back to that Bade Bhaiya,
Yeah.
all right? How are you addressing this whole mindset of compliance
Yeah.
through your platform?
Yeah. So I think the first is by showing you role models who are not complying.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is that I come from a certain background where my expected outcome was to become an accountant because I am from a business family in Surat. But here I am as an IAS officer working in the Ministry of Defense.
Right.
You wouldn't place the two. If you knew the person's background, you would almost always assume ki what the outcome is going to be.
Sure.
But through our stories, we're breaking that narrative, right? We're showing you how you can become someone big even in an unconventional career. We're showing you that maybe government jobs is also not the end of it because that's still the single biggest aspiration of our country's youth, right?
Right.
So we're showing you the world beyond that. We're showing you how a girl can actually become a leader in science. Again, something that you don't see. even if I had to ask you, I know you would probably know, but if you just go into like general public and ask them, okay, who are like 3 female leaders that you know who've done well in science in India, people aren't aware of it. So we are
Absolutely.
finding these role models and putting them in front of this audience at large, in different languages. So again, it becomes easy to consume and relate to, and showing them that there is a world beyond where you come from.
Right.
And you can be anything. You can choose
Right.
to be anything, which
Right.
is never taught or
Right.
told.
Right. No, very interesting. So coming back to the whole notion of being a Bade Bhaiya,
Yeah.
how do you really think, I remember I've seen one of your videos where you talk about India 1, India 2, India
Yeah.
3. So how do you really think in India 1 and 2, which is more compliant
Yeah.
than India 3? Or let's call India 4, which is really urban and metropolitan. All right. So when you, growing up in a metropolitan city,
Yeah.
going to a private school,
Yeah.
and having the kind of like facilities, had a very compliant upbringing, and as you go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, India, the compliance just magnifies.
Yeah.
How do you battle that? How do you think a parent is going to say, मैं 500 रुपए देता हूँ, आप जोश app download करो और कुछ नया सीखो, rather than saying मैं बताता हूँ क्या करना है?
Yeah.
How does that kind of like play out, just in terms of adoption and just getting that penetration?
Yeah. I think it has to come from the child exposing the parent to what's actually possible or not, right? So even if we take my example, because we've discussed it, my exposure into the world of what's possible was through YouTube. When I started looking at this content, I never wanted to be a CEO. I never wanted to be someone who's big in, like who's running her own thing or, is an entrepreneur. I never saw myself that way. I saw myself as someone who's doing a desk job, who's getting promoted, doing the 15%, 20% increment year on year and setting myself up for success. But when I saw that it's possible, that you can have both, you can have a great family life and you can be big in your career, I knew that I wanted it. And I think that's what we're trying to change, right? That level of exposure is the biggest problem today. That you don't have someone who's relatable, who's from your own gully.
Yeah.
They didn't go back to,
It's giving that hope.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all you need.
I love this whole notion about Bade Bhaiya.
Yeah.
I had a Badi Bhen.
Yeah.
So the role the bada sibling plays is one of, it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
It's anything from being a good listener to being a good coach to being that wise person to give guidance, to answer questions, not essentially career and counseling related. So at the start, you mentioned that's really what you're trying to cover. Is there one area of focus? And I know you don't want to try and bucket yourself, but how do you intend to kind of like expand this to more intangible, feeling related aspects of like, hey, I'm just feeling low today and I need to speak to someone.
Yeah.
Is that something that is in your pipeline or is something that you want to introduce? Because we've talked about the English app, we've talked about the career counseling. What if I'm just feeling low?
Yeah. And if you have that feeling today, you have a content to go to. So that's how we solve for, that problem right now.
Right.
So there are multiple use cases. So for example, we have a total of 21 different channels. So even if you are a young 17-year-old girl today who's going through a problem like PCOD, which you don't even understand, but you are seeing hormonal changes, you're seeing your body become something that you didn't imagine yourself to be, you're feeling low because of that, there is content for you that's available today on our Women's Health channel, where only this specific problem is being addressed, so people are coming. So we are trying to, kind of make buckets of the problems that people are facing on a daily basis, what they're going through, and then addressing that through content. But there is a need, of course, to build a higher touch point. And I think once we crack counseling, we will be able to crack that one-on-one coaching relationship or, conversational relationship. But today we don't solve for that through a one-on-one approach.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because that I was going to lead to that. A lot of the, counseling
Yeah.
and coaching is best when it's tailor-made to you.
Yeah.
Because we're all different.
Yeah.
Right? And one size cannot fit all.
Yeah.
So how are you going to be addressing that as you move forward?
Yeah.
How are you going to try and make all of this highly customizable?
Yeah.
Is that in the plans?
Yeah. So I think the time for us to start working in this space is now more than before, especially because you can do this through technology today, right? You can use AI to figure this out. And we didn't have that earlier. So, like if you look at the first version of our English app as well, it's WhatsApp. There's a teacher who's sending a voice note and the kid is replying back with a voice note. And we're checking and we're grading because we saw that behavior of WhatsApp is working. People love using voice. People love using chat. So even when we built our own application, it's only focused on voice and chat. There's nothing else to do on the app besides talk. So when we are now looking at this sort of one-on-one personalized solution, counseling, coaching, whatever you term it as, we will have to go deep into understanding what are the nuances that are common for which we can have more generic solutions, but what are some character traits or attributes that are independent and have to be customized for, and then have deeper integrations with, like people at the end of it.
Right.
Some of it can be solved through just, aggregating and curating information, but just having a person to chat with or talk to. But a lot of deeper integrations will have to be done through manual people solving for it at the back.
Got it. So what percentage of your platform today is fully automated, pre-recorded versus what is kind of like live, real-time people supporting?
Yeah.
Is that a combination and, just...
Yeah. So the solution that we have active right now is spoken English, right?
Right.
Counseling is something that we're still working towards and building. So within English, if you look at the automated side of it, it's 100% automated, but it's social within that automation. So you and I are two users on the app. We have built a way for us to get connected using a logic, and we're speaking to each other.
Right.
So we are still feeling like it's happening in real time because it is.
Yeah.
You are from Patna, I am from Darbhanga. We are getting connected and now we're the best of friends. People are even getting married off of the app. People are getting jobs off of the app. So that feeling of being in a social atmosphere, which is traditionally how schools and how
Right.
colleges work, is being recreated on the app.
Right.
But everything else, which is your learning mechanism, is all passive and automated. The videos are all pre-recorded. There are quizzes that are getting tougher. So, with each question that you answer correctly, so that we're able to grade and put you in different levels and see what we need to improve on. It's customized, but again, it's pre-built and automated.
Got it. So let's kind of like ask something again lighter.
Yeah.
What's your anthem? What's your anthem song?
Oh, my anthem song. Actually, I don't know if I have one recently, but in my childhood, it's very random, and you might find it extremely lame for someone to even quote this. But there was this movie called Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar.
Yes, of course.
And that's my favorite movie.
Amir Khan.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love it. I've seen it
it's a
like
fantastic
300
movie.
times.
Yeah.
And there was
It's
a song
all
in
about
that.
cycling as well. So your
I know, my
co-founder is a
co-founder
cyclist.
is a cyclist, which is so weird because like I saw that movie when I was probably 8 years old or 9 years old and then
And
kept
you
watching it.
you met your co-founder after that.
I met him when I was 18, 19.
So his being a cyclist,
Yes.
did it have anything to do
Do
with...
with the Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, yeah. But the songs of that movie and
Yes.
then Kahan Ke Hum Sikandar.
Yes.
And I think that feeling of, like koi bhi jeet sakta hai life mein
Yeah.
came from that movie. So
Got
those
it.
songs are like my sort of go-to songs because when I listen to that song,
Yeah.
I visualize the movie. I visualize the end race when the brakes are failing, but suddenly the person goes in front and actually wins. So I would have to say that and
Right.
not some other cool song that's relevant today.
And that was a great movie.
Yeah.
Now, as a founder, and you've been on that journey, not of a startup, but
Yeah.
a founder of a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have tough days. I'm sure you must have days where you're kind of like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I take a break actually. So earlier, even if it was a tough day, I would just be like, slogging and trying to figure out, okay, let's make something else work. And then, let's just burn yourself out at the end of it, and maybe getting some productive outcome will make you feel happier or better about your life.
Right.
But when it's a really tough day now, I just take a day or two off and kind of unwind.
Do you travel?
Yeah, I do travel.
Okay.
I let myself go. I do things that I enjoy. Sometimes I'm just sitting and listening to music, and maybe 6 hours
Do you
have
cut off
passed.
from the world?
Yes, I do cut off from the
So
world.
like
Yeah.
Supriya's unreachable.
Yeah, I do that.
Okay.
I do have a problem cutting off from my work Slack. So I may still look at it at the end of the day and just respond to
Ooh,
whatever's
cheeky.
needed. Yeah. But I do try and cut myself off from all the social media noise at least.
Right.
And just kind of give myself time to become more aware of what I'm feeling.
Right.
And then get over it slowly.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you release bad energy? When you're feeling angry, when you're frustrated, how do you take it out?
I think by hitting the gym.
Hitting the gym?
Yeah.
What's your go-to, like what do you do? What's your gym routine look like?
So it's mostly weight training, but I think whenever I'm feeling upset or whenever I'm low or I just have so much in me that is just, building up, I think my only way to get rid of it is through exercise.
Do you feel like punching someone that time?
Yeah, I do feel like punching people. I feel like punching people a lot of times. I don't know if it's just restricted to feeling angry or not, but yeah.
Okay, have you ever punched anyone?
No.
Oh, you've been a very compliant person.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think I have actually.
You've never punched, you've never hit
No.
anyone.
No.
Okay, so let's
I like how you're asking like the answer is supposed to be yes. It's not. It's not really okay to hit people.
I know it's not okay, but you're like, I want to punch, but I haven't punched.
Yeah.
Good self-restraint.
Yeah.
No, but again, just when you kind of like, as a boy growing up, getting into a scuffle
Yeah.
was pretty much par for the course. So it's I kind of like get it.
Yeah.
But just kind of like moving from there, what's kind of like if you're upset with someone or if someone is upsetting you,
Yeah.
what's your way of kind of like dealing with it? How do you kind of like deal with them?
So very, interestingly enough, I was
You
having
don't
this.
obviously punch them.
No, I don't punch them. And now I just remember that I've never really punched anyone. But I've been at the end of a lot of wrestling action because my brother is just, 1.5 years older. And when we were growing up, WWE was the thing.
Oh
and
my
there was Rey
gosh.
Mysterio and Kane and like everything. So I feel like his attempts to try choke slam and everything were on me.
Oh,
so
no.
I became a lot stronger because of trying to like defend myself in that situation. But the way that I deal with it is through a medium like writing. For example, I think if you get an email from me which is worded in a certain way, you have to now comply, or
Got
that
it.
something has really triggered her
Got it.
to be able to send me this.
Got it.
Because otherwise I'm able to reach a place where if I'm upset, I'll just say it once in a very matter of fact way and people will get it. But if I have used the written medium to give you feedback, then it means that something is really wrong. Yeah.
So you're not an impulsive person.
No, I'm not an impulsive person at all. I may be impulsive with people who are close to me, and even within the core team of Josh or people who've been here for 6-7 years and have, sort of seen that side. If you speak to them, they'll probably account for maybe one instance where I would have raised my voice
Wow.
to do something. At most two. And that would also be about, things which are culture oriented or, discipline oriented. That's when I get really disturbed.
Would that be true for your co-founder as well?
No, he's a complete opposite. I
Okay.
feel like I think the reason that we make things work is because we are like nothing alike.
Right.
So he's the more impulsive one. He's the one who, has his heart on his sleeve. He's able to communicate that effectively in the manner that works for
But
him.
I'm going to pause you
Yeah.
here because why is it that when a man is impulsive, he's wearing his heart on his sleeve and a woman can't be impulsive, or it's not a reflection of them wearing a heart on their sleeve? Look, I have very strong kind of like this whole gender,
Yeah.
I kind of like stereotypical.
I like you so much already. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of like, why can't you be impulsive? And just because you're not impulsive doesn't mean you don't wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, given your passion, you probably wear your heart on both your sleeves.
Yeah.
some people like to go and just lock themselves up in a quiet place and scream.
Yeah.
They don't want to scream in public, and
Yeah.
it's a kind of like a proven way of anger
Yeah.
management. Just go, and
Yeah.
then you just kind of like get it out. Do you do that?
No, I don't scream, but I do cry.
Okay,
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's like my way of
Releasing.
releasing everything.
got it.
And and I also think that this is so ingrained in you. Like, and as a girl, like when you're growing up, right? If you are talking in a voice which is sort of louder, like you're throwing a tantrum, then someone or the other will be like, "लड़कियां ही नहीं करती, चिल्लाने से कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला." As opposed to when, if a guy is throwing a tantrum or
Yeah.
even a kid is throwing a tantrum who's a boy, you're not really told to you are told to shut up, but maybe not in the same way. Because,
Correct.
you're not told like, acha ladke hi nahi karte and all of that,
Correct.
right? So even when you're being loud, it's not kind of construed as the right thing for a girl to be extremely loud, angry,
Right.
vocal, voicing her opinion, being, at a higher pitch than everyone else. And I think that gets ingrained in you at such an early age that it becomes a part of you.
And how are you trying to change that? Because the compliant
Yeah.
superior from school is something that you're trying to change, as you
Yeah.
said earlier.
Yeah.
And how are you trying to change that?
I think by not taking shit from
Okay.
anyone.
Got it.
So the compliant me would not raise my voice or would not talk, would become that sort of defensive introvert self in a meeting where someone is saying something which may be in complete contrast to my beliefs or thoughts or something which is not right for the organization or
Right.
otherwise.
Right.
And I would contain myself and I would take everything back in. But now I speak. I speak up for myself. I speak up for others in the room because I also realize that other girls also have the same issue. They're not going to talk for themselves. So they need a representative and I have to become that representative. So I have to learn.
Right.
I have to learn to be able to voice myself and make myself heard in a meeting when it's required.
Got it.
So there are, things that I'm working on. And I ensure that, I've often been in rooms where I have seen both genders come together and you can't feel the presence of one gender because they're always the note takers.
Yeah.
They're always the quieter ones who, if asked, does anyone have any questions? When the first male answers or asks a question, they'll go second. And I'm trying very hard to change that about myself because I am one of them. If I am in a large conference room or a meeting room or I'm at an event and, there's someone speaking on stage and they'll ask, oh, do you have any questions? Even if I have a question, I'll contain myself. I'll be like, okay, first let's wait for someone else to go.
And why is that?
I think it's just the way that you're conditioned. Like it's almost tragic, but it's just that.
Yeah.
Like you've never been in rooms where girls are speaking first. You've always been on the side of, like very, very, it's so strange. But, like if you look at traditional households, and if I still go back to some of, like some distant relatives and families and all of that, even if they have help at home, the mother is eating last. She's going in the kitchen and getting warm rotis so that everyone else is eating. And I have that trait also.
Really?
Yeah, and that's just by virtue of looking at someone
Right.
and trying to be that person, right? Because it's almost like you become what your surroundings are. So
Right.
if you've seen something as a behavior again and again, you're not questioning it.
Right.
So even when I have guests at home, I find it so weird, but I always am like, no, I'll eat it. I'll eat in the end. And now when I think of it, it's because, I have this sort of feeling of wanting to serve or like make everyone happy before me. And it's come from what I've seen as a child. It's come from my ecosystem.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying as unfortunate, and I'm going to use the word annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and I truly hope that you gave the example of Indra Nui,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I think she said was, it's not important to have a seat at the table. It's important to have a voice at the table.
Yeah.
And we all know that she is a very, very strong leader,
Yeah.
and someone who spoke up
Yeah.
adequately. How are you changing that? I know you're trying to speak up, and
Yeah.
how are you changing that? Let's say just socially.
Yeah.
Next time there is a party at your home, and you just say, "I'm picking the plate up first."
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to go?
No, I think
Or would you just not do it? It's just like, no, this I cannot do. Is that your
no, I think
discomfort zone?
yeah, it's also what makes you happy, and I feel like sometimes you'll just be like, okay, fine, this is in my DNA and I'll do it, and
Right.
gender's got nothing to do with it. But sometimes when you feel really disturbed by certain things, then you have to change it, right? So like I said, I'm engaged, I'm getting married this year in December.
By the way, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, now the conversations are around some of the rituals that are there, right? And in Hindu families, there are rituals like Kanyadan, which
Yeah.
is basically you're giving your daughter away. Then there is that when the bride walks in, all the men of the house have to hold up this Phoolo ki chadar. And these are really meaningful rituals, and they've been made a certain way, but they've been made centuries ago, and there's been really no change to it. And I don't find myself okay to conform to all of this. So I am making a change. And I am talking to my family, and it's also a very big deal, right? Especially when you're talking to two
Sure.
families and not one, and then everyone is just going to be like, why do you care so much?
Right.
Just have fun and get over it.
Right.
But it means something to me.
Sure.
And whenever something means something to me, I do bring about a change in it.
Sure.
So, if it means a lot to me that girls at Josh should talk in a meeting or should talk at town halls. So, whenever there is a group conversation happening, I on purpose will give the speaking engagement to girls.
Right.
And not just, ki the HR is doing activities because that's considered a female job.
Right.
But in different conversations. And I will also enter sales meetings where I will not talk. And I will ensure that the girl in the room who's with me she's talking and she's presenting and I'm just there. Because that's the only way that you can make that change sort of happen, right? Like I see a lot of, women talking about making a change, but they're not willing to hold someone else's hand and get them to cross the road. And that's what you need sometimes. Like you're feeling lost, you're feeling a certain way, you've been conditioned a certain way. Just being told again and again कि नहीं तुम बात करो, तुम बोल सकते हो is not going to help.
No, it's not going to help.
You just have to shut up and say, I'm not talking till you talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it may be embarrassing for the other person, but the sense of confidence that they have at the end of that is going to change their life forever.
Right.
That's
So-
what I try and do.
Let's come back to you and your co-founder who
Yeah.
have very different approaches.
Yeah.
And let's for a moment just not bucket them on gender.
Yeah.
But who do you think has more impact on the team? Which style has more impact in your team?
It depends.
But
So-
let's start with the general answer first.
Yeah. So I would say that Shobit style has more impact
Okay.
on the
And
team.
why do you think so?
I think because he's, he has a way of talking that's sort of larger than life. He's able to, be a lot more confident. He's able to express himself in a way which is, say, more emotive, and that inspires. And I think those are qualities in a great leader. And at different stages you require different qualities, but I think that's something that you need constantly.
Sure.
So it's extremely inspiring for the team. But also, like, I've realized that, different things work for different people and for different teams.
Right.
Like when I took this role, so we were just co-founders, and then we decided when we raised capital that there was a need for someone to be a CEO. And it can't be like, there's joint accountability and joint decision making happening on everything else. And we had to go back to the board and say that, okay, who's going to be the CEO? And the need of the hour was for me to be the CEO just because of some of the character traits that I had and what the company needed at that particular time. So when I did step into that role, I thought I need to be larger than life. Because when you think of a descriptor of a CEO on the internet and you see all these videos, you'll see everyone talking firstly, you'll see only male videos, but then also you'll see everyone who's talking with a lot of passion and energy and emotion and loud and, just breaking things and like talking about moving fast. And, there is that charm or aura associated with it, but it doesn't fit everyone's personality type. And I tried it for a long time, and I was just like, okay, I'm also going to be that person in the meeting who's loud. And you don't have to be loud to be passionate is something that I learned later. And that passion can get translated through other ways.
Sure.
And you can be inspirational without fitting into that archetype of what inspirational is. And then I started watching, Ratan Tata is not loud. Harsh Mariwala is the last person who's loud.
Sure.
He doesn't have a way of speaking that's extremely larger than life.
Sure.
I mean, he does. He's very inspiring, but he's not extremely emotive. He talks in a single tone. And that to me is extremely inspiring as well.
But look, let's talk about Ratan Tata, someone
Yeah.
that I truly, truly admire.
Yeah.
And, definitely one of the people I would consider as role models.
Yeah.
But the reality also is, I don't know of what he was like when he was 30,
Yeah.
what he was like when he was 20 or 40. And he obviously was born in a family, a legacy business.
Yeah.
And he built it. But what was he like in 20s and 30s? I don't know.
Yeah.
And, what he's now, was he still like that or not? We don't know. So, again, for you to say that Ratan Tata, is a very poised person and a very, very humble person.
Yeah.
I met him once and was absolutely floored by his humility. But it's also the stage of life that he is in after the accomplishments that he's
Yeah.
had. But at the start of the career, was he like this? I don't know. I've never had the opportunity to ask him that. I wish I could, and I wish I can.
Yeah.
So just coming back to you, it's like, if you feel in your organization that, your co-founder's style is more impactful, and then you see it all around, and you're absolutely right, you don't want to be that person
Yeah.
because it's not your natural instinctive self. How do you balance it?
I think I balance it by first knowing that there are different leadership styles, and it's okay for you not to have one, which is, say, like more sort of flamboyant or more sort of, inspirational, or however you would like to term it. As long as you're getting the job done and doing right by the people of the company and the company itself.
Right.
And I also feel that, it's come with a lot of experience and like over the last couple of years. And it's also come with a sense of knowing that people will accept you the way that you are.
Right.
And you don't have to live up to someone's expectations of what they might find inspiring because of the references that they've had. And in your day-to-day work, just by who you are and what you do, you can continue to be inspiring.
Sure.
Just
Of
by
course.
that, right?
Of course.
And in fact, very strange that we're having this conversation right now, because I woke up to a message today by one of our ex-colleagues. And I think it was like sent late at night, and she's gone to another organization and she must have gone through something, but she's really not described it. And I just got this message saying that, hey, I don't even know if you remember me. And I didn't have her number saved. So then I had to kind of Truecaller it and save it. And the message reads that I've gone through something at work, or, something's happened in my life, and I've just realized the importance of you and how you were. And
That's so thoughtful.
the compassion that you brought to every conversation that we had, which I find missing in my life now.
Sure.
So I also think that it really depends on what flies with people and who they relate to. And then that becomes inspiring for them.
Right.
And I've learned to be me and just be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can't keep up. I can't keep up with someone else. It's so hard to keep up with someone
you
else.
got to be yourself.
Yeah.
You
So
got to be yourself. of
change the
course.
role. If this is not right for the role, change the role. But I will
Right.
be me.
Yeah. No, I fully, and you're a very inspiring person. So please be you.
Yeah.
But in the process of evolution, Supriya, the leader in 5 years, is.
I think authentic
Mm-hmm.
and transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all that I want to be.
Right.
I just always want everyone to know that you'll know what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. You'll have all information.
Right.
And I've gone through a phase where maybe I wasn't as communicative. So that's something that I'm trying to change about
Sure.
myself as a person.
Right.
But I think that's something that's going to stick with me.
So authentic and transparent.
Yeah.
Now, and I think the one that you can add to that is compassionate.
Yeah, compassionate, of course.
Because I can see you're a very compassionate
Yeah,
person. Let's talk about interests.
Yeah.
What do you like? What's your kind of like, after a hard day's work, what does unwinding look like?
So I love food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
What kind of
I'm
food?
like, so Asian food is my favorite, like
Right.
Chinese, Thai, etc. I could probably even eat it for breakfast. And yeah, so I think just exploring new places, eating different kinds of food. I have a very love-hate relationship with food, so also that gets difficult. But I think I really
What do you mean
like in my,
love-hate?
like I'll overdo it sometimes where I'm
Okay.
just like, okay, no, I'm eating a lot. I want to eat everything which is
Right.
unhealthy and everything. And then there'll be phases where I'm like completely on routine and
Right.
eating a certain way. But that's sort of like how I like to unwind when I'm really feeling stressed out. I also like to cook a little bit. So just that act of being by myself and doing something which is really not a thinking task, but
Right.
just an
Yeah.
executing task
Yeah.
helps. I like to read. I just like to listen to music and very, very different taste in music. So I listen to Hindustani classical music. I listen to Sufi
Awesome.
music.
Yeah.
I listen to these random French tunes that are playing on Spotify.
Cool.
And yeah, so that's how I
Yeah.
unwind.
Just again, you started Josh straight after college.
Yeah.
We know that. Have you ever wondered you want to go back to school?
Yeah.
Is that
I
something
do
that
want to go back to school.
you want to go back to
Yeah.
school? And
Yeah, and now that I know of your experience at Stanford, it just makes me want to go back now. But
right. So
yeah.
so what does that look like? What would, like, if suddenly a genie appeared right now and said,
Yeah.
ask for what you want, what does that going back to school look like?
So I think one of the things that I always felt was that I don't have enough international exposure.
Right.
And for someone who's a big believer in exposure changing everything for you, it's just something that I was trying to get to, but I haven't been able to attain. I have, of course, traveled a lot, been to different conferences and all, but I think to be in a student-centric environment, to be living with people from different cultures, and just imbibing that is an experience that I want to have.
Right.
How much time can I give to that experience is something that I'm, internally kind of toying with.
Right.
But I do want to do that. And I also want to learn for the art of learning, right? Like
Right.
I've been to, school here. I've been to college in Delhi University. And for me, college wasn't about learning. Like I learned outside of college
Sure.
and by starting up.
Sure.
But the curriculum was not exciting. It was just traditional, like accountancy, finance, commercial
Yeah,
application,
yeah.
etc. So, how you were talking about the courses on the power of storytelling or like the art of negotiation that I also did online, I really learned something in that.
Right.
And I think I want to have that experience offline.
Right. And you look at yourself kind of like taking that time off and going and living a student life all over again?
I want to. Whether I'm going to be able to get to do that is something that we have to figure out. But yeah, maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, if it's a shorter span of time.
Sure.
And if I'm not needed, then of course, I'd
Right.
love to get away and do it.
So as you sit here and you look back, any unfulfilled desires today?
Yeah, so I feel like 2 or 3 things which I really want to do, but I haven't been able to get to. One is that I have been kind of, mulling over this idea of having a dropout school or like 1 year, which is sort of for people who want to take a gap year
Right.
and really expose themselves to different facets of life
Sure.
and learning.
Yeah,
and
dropping
relearning.
out, a gap
Gap
year,
year.
not dropping out really, but a
Yeah.
gap year in India is a very,
It's a
very,
crime.
it's a very foreign concept,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like a almost feigned upon
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
Just, my son took a gap year,
Yeah.
and, it's something that I think was probably the best decision he took.
Yeah.
So, but I know when he took a gap year, everybody's like, "Isko admission nahi mili."
Mili, haan.
Yeah,
Job
iska,
nahi mili,
yeah,
internship nahi
exactly.
mili,
That's
yeah.
what people think. Like
Yeah.
you've kind of like failed, and that's
yeah.
why. Rather than this is something that I've kind of like. So, talk to me about gap year and how do you want to kind of like promote that?
Yeah. So there is a university in the US. It's called Minerva. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's also based out of SF, and they have like global campuses, which are sort of asset light, but
Right.
curriculum and experience heavy.
Right.
So I've been kind of like, thinking about an idea which is similar in nature, but which is basically a 12-month experiential program that puts you through different careers and different foundational learning skills
Yeah.
that help you come to a decision on who do you want to be, what do you identify yourself as, and then moving into what career do you want to go to. Because I also feel like careers are linked to identity and
Yes.
character attributes.
Yes.
And often we are in a society where we are living someone else's life and identity. So first you need that time to just kind of break away and, really feel like, who are you? What do you like for yourself? What do you enjoy for yourself? Not
Sure.
for your family, but just for you.
Sure.
And then who do you want to be? Who do you identify as? Like
Right.
nobody even asks you who your role models are, or, like what inspires you. So
Right.
get you to a place where you know who you are and what you want for yourself, and then match a career which sort of suits that.
Of course.
So that's something that, I've just been thinking a lot about, and I eventually want to get to that, whether it's in this decade or not, I'm not sure. But that is sort of like
Yeah.
my dream project. And the thing about Josh is that it can happen here.
Yeah.
It also fulfills the organization's objective.
Sure.
So that's one. The second thing that I'm really passionate about is women's health. Because, so I was actually this is back in 2016. So I was 23, 24 years old and I had PCOD. And it had been a while since I had it. I also had thyroid, too many hormonal issues going on in my body. I went to a gynecologist and she prescribed a over-the-counter pill just to, regulate my cycles and ensure that I'm fine. And as a result of that, I got pulmonary embolism, which almost resulted in a stroke. And I literally had maybe 5 minutes from the time that I entered the hospital for them to figure out what's going to happen or not. And this happens to so many people. It's so common that, you're given medication or prescriptions without really understanding what the side effects of that are. And especially almost 1 out of 3 girls in India right now have some hormonal issue or the other and are dealing with lifestyle disorders.
Right.
So that's something that I'm again really passionate about because it's happened to me. I lost 3 years of my productive life. 6 months I couldn't do anything. 2 years I was still recovering from the trauma of, feeling this way. And I just don't want that to happen to anyone else.
Sure.
So that's another space that I really, really want to do something in.
Oh, good luck with that. And, it's, again, very inspiring how you kind of dealt with it and how you kind of bounced back from it. Have you ever considered having Josh be an all-women platform or a women-only platform?
So we have Josh Talks Asha.
Okay.
And Asha is Hope.
Right, of course.
Which is an all-women platform. It's an
Right.
all-women team. And the entire content is focused only on women. It's
Right.
by women, for women.
Right.
But as an organization, no, I think we need different perspectives, and to have a balanced ratio always works better.
For sure.
And I don't think it's right to only have an all-women team or an all-women ecosystem. It may work for certain products or problems that you're solving for, but you do need men in the room. Yeah.
And, who can listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's also very important. I'm not just men who are only going to talk all the time.
Yeah.
Supriya, thank you very much for being at the Disruptors Den. It was really, really fun, insightful to talk to you, get your perspective on things. And I have to say that, you said that you want to be an authentic person. I want to say that you are an authentic person. The clarity, the authenticity, and the sincerity with which we have this conversation, I'm really grateful to you. Thank you very much. And I wish you and Josh all the very best. I wish you a lot of Josh, and, may your dreams come true.
Thank you so much for having me here. I think in such a short period of time, going deep into so many diverse topics is an experience I've never had before. So I felt like I was in a coaching and like a sort of coaching intertwined with therapy session.
Bade bhaiya.
Yes, I found my Bade Bhaiya in you. But thank you so much for having me, and I'm going to take you to Stanford when I go next.
Absolutely.
And we're doing that
I love
course
the place.
together.
Yes.
So let's do
Yeah,
that.
we will explore the place together again.
Yes, absolutely.
All the best. Thank you so much, Supriya.